And you are watching EWTN's continuing
Thank
live
you very
coverage
much,
of the
Jeannie.
43rd Annual March for Life, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. We have seen some of the images of people who've already began part of the march. I'm Doug Keck here with Father Joseph Mary Wolf, and as we can see and note that the snow has begun to fall, and we already know that the offices of the Washington government have been closed, and so people have begun to move out already, and will be staying with you throughout as the intrepid people of Washington, D.C., those who are there, make their way down towards the Supreme Court building. Again, I'm Doug Keck here with EWTN's continuing live coverage with Father Joseph Mary Wolf. And as you can see there, we're getting images now from the actual front of the march. Now, this is the official beginning of the march. What we've seen earlier, it looks like various groups began to march possibly a little bit earlier based on how cold it might be, their need to get out of town in time, or even just the fact that it was starting to snow. All of those seem to be very legitimate reasons why you may want to begin moving. But you can see that's we saw that banner before, so that is the front. We are the pro-life generation. We certainly saw that before. And we'll be able to call out as we go along some of the banners we've seen. Maybe Father, you mentioned a couple of those while we wait to hear from Teresa Tomeo.
So we've seen the Shrine of St. Jude Youth Group, Pax Christi, Baltimore, the Diocese of Toledo. We saw some of the Sisters of Life there as well, and we're grateful for all the work that they do. I saw a little sign that said, "Love them both," just like that physician was speaking about. She had a responsibility to help both of them, both the mother and the child. Pro-life feminist and Eastern Catholics.
Right, just some of the banners we've seen, and we can see that considering how bad the weather has been and all the warnings and all the cancellations, it is even legitimately surprising still to see that as many people who have ventured as have ventured, though of course we'd have to be realistic and say obviously the numbers are going to be dramatically less than what we've seen in some other years. And now we're going to go out to Teresa, who's in the midst of that crowd. Teresa. There you are at the front of the real march.
LADO.
We have John Leto,
And I'm not sure if Teresa can hear me, or she's waiting for us to let her know she can start talking. But there's Teresa Tomeo. She's at the front of the line for the March for Life. Hello, Teresa.
Hi, Doug, and we are right at the front of the march behind the banner, and we're with the wonderful students from Catholic University. And of course, they are beginning this march, and we have a young man who's a freshman at that fine school, and his name is John Lato, and he is here for your 6th march, so you're a veteran at this, young man.
Yes, exactly.
What's it like for you to be here?
It's unreal. We get to be leading it, which is really great. I just love to be out here with my friends supporting a really great cause.
So you've been here for 6 years now. When you heard the news that Catholic Year was going to happen what did that mean to you? What was the conversation like?
Everyone was just really excited. It's a great honor for the Catholic University of America and for all the people who get to be involved with helping lead the march, which is a great honor.
Now, when you first started to get interested in the pro-life movement or knew that it was an important cause, how old were you and how did that happen? Was it your family? Was it the environment, a combination?
It was a combination. I would say very young. I mean, ever since I've been taught, I just learned that human life is so important. That every human being has dignity, and I just love to get to express that here.
So how do we reach out to more young people, more young people like you involved in the pro-life movement? Although a very strong representation of young pro-lifers, but in the secular culture, how do you talk to your friends who aren't who may even be Catholic but not understand the teachings of the church on the life?
That's a very good question. I think you just have to be a good example of the pro-life movement yourself. I think part of the reason we have such a great representation from our students here is because our friends and that's how we understand. We learn from our friends and people we hang out with. By example.
Well, you keep doing it, John. Thanks for coming year after year and getting home safely. You didn't live too far, so God bless you.
Thank you very much.
The students from Catholic University, Doug, at the front of the march. It will be starting momentarily, and then we'll be walking our way up Constitution Avenue, making our way to the Supreme Court, and it's already snowing here. They said the snow was going to start early, and we're moving. Here we are, we're moving. We've just begun.
Here we are, Teresa Tomeo there live from the midst of the march, and as we can see the various images, We've had some people who got started a little bit earlier as the platform ran a little long, and now is Teresa there as the march is actually beginning. And again, seeing the numbers as the snow has begun to fall in Washington, D.C., where it's about 1:15 in the afternoon as people have begun the march, and the weather is coming in maybe a little bit earlier than even some people had suspected it would, but it's great to see so many people marching through this kind of weather.
And there you see someone with their child there, and they got them well shielded and almost like a little Eskimo there, but
all bundled up.
It's cold.
And then we can see some of the March for Life, obviously the Knights of Columbus, who usually have those Defend Life banners are there. And again, considering all the warnings that there's been there and the weather and what's to come, apparently in the sense of, what are they calling, Snowmageddon or something about that, that this many people have shown the courage to come and do it. But at the same time, for those who decided not to come, that might have been exactly the right decision to make. And hopefully you're at home participating as best you can through EWTN and our various outlets, whether it be on the web or here on television, and that you're at least getting a feeling of bonding with those people who've actually made it to the march itself.
And we've seen a Generation Pro-Life and a number of these signs, both in English and in Spanish, and this really is the pro-life generation. As one of our tweets said, this teacher said that a number of children were missing from the classroom in her children's classroom, and that's the generation in which we live.
Right, exactly. That's right. And one thing we did want to mention earlier, Teresa Tommy, on one of the many interviews that was done, she was talking with Peggy Hartshorn, and Peggy, who's actually the chairman of the board of Heartbeat International, was very interesting. I guess when they gave the number out, it wasn't quite right, so they wanted to make sure we had the right number. It's 1-800-712-HELP. That's 1-800-712-HELP if you want to get in touch with Heartbeat International. Just wanted to make that point. And we certainly heard some wonderful speakers. We'll hopefully have some wonderful interviews with some of the people along the marchway as Damon and Teresa get set up to do that. We saw Teresa beginning to march with the crowd, and we had Carly Fiorina speak, Joni Ernst from your own home state, right?
Yes, that's right, from Iowa. Matt Burke gave a wonderful talk talking about how he felt like this was almost like game day in the NFL, and he's never heard anyone say that they had wished they had had abortion after the birth of their child, or they wished they had had fewer children.
Right.
What our society needs today is love.
Right, exactly. What does he say? Something about Planned Parenthood being was it something like Child Death Incorporated or something along those lines?
That was Chris Smith, yes.
Chris
he
Smith who said that.
Child Abuse Incorporated.
Child Abuse Incorporated, that's what it was,
Right.
exactly. And I thought that was a great way of thinking about it. Like we were talking earlier as we see the crowd moving along, is the fact that, you've got people arguing over how you can legally sell body parts from aborted babies. And the argument isn't over whether they were doing it or not, it's just whether they were doing it legally or not, and gives you a hint at how far we've sunk.
That how we could even be discussing something like that as something tenable or something that is acceptable in any way.
And again, there you see the front of the march. This is the 43rd annual March for Life, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. as the march is underway. And we can see the very front of the march as they march up towards the Supreme Court building. We'll continue to give you live coverage of the march as we go along, and we will be dipping in with some interviews from our reporters on the ground, Damon Owens and Teresa Tomio, as soon as we can get ourselves technically set up to do that. Continuing live coverage, and I hear Teresa now in the background getting herself set. There she is. Go ahead, Teresa.
Yes, we're here and we're with Lewis Brown, and you know him well. He's been with me before, and he's from Michigan. Yeah, another Michigan person. What can I say? I can't help it.
Yeah.
But with Christ Medicus Foundation, and you're doing great work in educating people on healthcare. What's the reason you're here?
We're here to proclaim the new evangelization in healthcare. We're really excited about it. The Lord wants to be Lord over everything, and if we want to really advance the gospel of life, we have to proclaim the gospel anew, even in our healthcare decisions as a country and as a Catholic community.
How How's it going for you here? You had a presentation earlier this week, and you've been meeting with the community?
We did. It's been great. We had a press conference at the Heritage Foundation and just talking about all the ways in which we can advance life-affirming healthcare, advance religious liberty in healthcare, and work with Christ Center medical providers so that people have pro-life healthcare options.
And where do you go next after this? You've been doing some traveling, speaking around the country, and meeting with other people in similar fields.
Well, going back to Denver immediately, and then I'm keynoting the pro-life dinner at the Sacred Heart Seminary in Detroit. So really excited about that. Really excited about that.
Always good to talk to you, and we'll talk to you on the radio to help you promote your
That's
event,
great.
too.
Thank you so much.
Always, and have a great time at the march, and
Thank you.
for all you do.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Teresa. God bless you. Thank
and of
you.
course, this is such a big issue this year, especially, Doug, in the election year, the issue of health care and tying it all in, and all of these groups working together. It's something you said earlier today when you were talking with Father about this is a big pro-life coalition. People from so many walks of life, no pun intended, talking about health care insurance, talking about resource centers, talking about the Catholic Medical Association, all coming together to march for life and to band together to build the culture of life. Back to you. We're going to get moving because we're going to get run over by all the marchers.
You better hurry up there. Teresa, sprinting to the side as always. Thank you so much for always being in the midst of whatever is going on from a Catholic news perspective. There's some more images of another part of the march as people move up towards the Supreme Court building. Teresa Tomeo there. And again, Father, one of the things I was thinking about with some other shots we could see on the screen was that button you brought in, you showed before that. Actually, Michael Warsaw, who had been up, was our chairman, who had been up in Washington, brought it back with him from the Beckett Fund, who was basically dealing with the HHS mandate cases for the Little Sisters of the Poor and EWTN as well. And what was the phrase again on that button?
So it says, I will have none of it.
I will have none of it.
None of it. None of this HHS mandate that is seeking to coerce religious organizations and going against their consciences.
Exactly.
So that's the...
there it is. And you know, I think the thing with that too is for all of us to remember and realize that we can't pick and choose in these situations, because if we're going to find ourselves maybe agreeing on one particular area where there's this kind of persecution, that who's to say the next person in line is not you or your particular cause. And I think many people lose sight of that and don't realize how much of their own liberty they might be giving up, especially their religious liberty, and certainly health care. And to think that we'd be sitting here in 2016 talking about forcing the Little Sisters of the Poor to provide something against their conscience. Again, I think people even 10 years ago would have thought that's impossible. But we're here, and that's what's important, and that's why we have to continue to march, because the reality, as bad as people talk about it, it is that bad. And that's what we've heard from womb to tomb. We need to stand together, and we need the pro-life forces to work together. Even if they disagree on some minor issues here and there, but the overall concern must be to stand up for life. And I think especially in this election year, as we see these images of people marching in Washington, D.C., is how important the whole voting for life is. You know, you've got two houses of Congress that are basically pro-life. We're not talking about parties, we're talking about life. And so, you know, certainly we wouldn't be sitting there being concerned about the Planned Parenthood law being vetoed if the person in the White House was a pro-lifer. And that could happen today. He could decide to become a pro-lifer. But if that's not the case and not likely, then we have to look to the next person who occupies that location and make sure that person is pro-life. And speaking of somebody who's pro-life, Teresa Tomeo once again. Teresa, who do you have?
I do. I have someone. I'm right here, Doug, and we are with the group Save the One. And another really big myth that's out there about abortion, and we know this, is the whole concept of, well, you know, we should make exceptions for cases of rape and incest. Well, we're here to tell you no. All life is precious. And Yanka, who's originally from Cuba, you're now down in Florida. You look okay? You're warm enough, honey?
I'm doing good,
Okay.
yes.
Tell us about this organization. It's so important.
Save the One is an organization that is very important. Why? Because that 1% is the one that everybody said, what about in cases of rape and incest? At 14 years old, my stepfather raped me and dragged me into an abortion clinic, and I had an abortion. At 15 years old, he was a policeman in Cuba, and he raped me again, and I have my son My only child, 25 years old. He is in Miami. He's the most precious gift I ever had. My husband adopted him on his own. And why should he pay crime of someone that was not going to be killed for his crime? You know, Save the One is an important organization because no exceptions to abortion. My son should not be killed through abortion because supposedly to care for me. No, I'm a victim of a rapist already. Should I be a victim as well? And my son a victim of abortion? Once again, no.
Your story
no
is
exceptions.
so powerful, and people would hear your story and say, my goodness, you've gone through so much pain with that
Yes.
horrible experience of being raped, and yet still you found in your heart that you knew you didn't want to be punished twice to be a victim twice.
Exactly. Like I say, my son is 25 years old. 5 years ago, I understood the solution is not abortion. A long time ago, but 5 years ago, my husband and I founded a crisis pregnancy center, marriage pregnancy resource center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Why? Because abortion is not the option. The option is support. The option is we coming together to let them know for women victims of rape that there's more. There's adoption. There's other options. There's education. There's so much that we can provide for them. And abortion should never, ever be an option.
Thank you for your courage, and thank you for saying yes to God and yes to life, and
Amen.
just a powerful story. God bless you and all the women and men in Save the One. SaveTheOne.com, by the way, is the website. Thank you for joining us, Yanka. And again, Doug, this is why we do this. Every year we're out to tell these different stories and to give people the truth and the full picture about what has really happened of death. They're not getting the information out there in the public, and stories like this. How often do we hear a story of a young woman who was raped by her own father? Had the gift and the blessing to know that abortion wasn't the answer. I've got to run. I got to run because I'm getting chased by the police now. That's not a good thing because I want to come back and talk to you some more. We'll be right back. So, take it away, Doug.
All right, Teresa, very good. Let's keep you out of the hooskow there. As we can see there, the front of the March for Life, that's the actual official banner moving down the street. I think we've seen some images of other parts of the march that might have got started a little bit early. It's interesting too, Father, as we see this this beautiful banner coming up the street, is the idea that it looked like it was starting to snow a little bit. Maybe some prayer has taken impact. I heard some rosaries being said. Maybe Our Lady is holding off the snow a little bit.
Postponing it a little bit. It looks like Teresa's in pretty good shape. She's not getting winded. She's
No,
having to run and to dodge stuff.
When you work in the Catholic media business, you got to be very good on your feet
That's
and
right.
keep moving. But again, we saw the images of the people marching, the front of the march, and some great speakers that we talked about. That got to speak. It was nice this year that also, as we look at the crowd, that they had some videos that they were able to show of some of the various representatives, especially the female representatives who stand for life throughout the year. And it's a way of trying to get these people so that people in their own hometown realize that this is a representative who they can count on and who stood up, and not somebody who just maybe shows up a month before the election suddenly deciding that maybe they're pro-life this week.
And then we had that also that other video that talked about Washington, D.C. being the first march, but then we had those other countries, Ireland, Canada, Rome, Peru, Mexico. So this is spawning other marches for life and raising that awareness.
In fact, we noticed earlier there was a tweet on the screen there from someone in Ireland who
That's
was
correct.
watching the march in Washington, as you can see on your screen, from Ireland, and noting the fact that they had run that, we ran the clip with the march in Ireland. And I think that's important too, not only for us to be able to have people around the world see this, but then for people to see in their own countries that there are other things happening in their country they may or may not be aware of. And all of this builds one thing on another. And again, because it's so important, I think in this way, you think of the old solidarity movement with John Paul II, how really this is the issue to be solid about and to band together again. The life issue. We can argue about a lot of other things and policies. You can't argue about abortion and euthanasia. Those are just things, they have to be. And as was said earlier, if you're not born, you don't have life, then everything else is unimportant.
That's right. Only those who are born can be for abortion. Only those who are free can vote for slavery.
Right.
Think about that connection there. Only those who are free would vote for slavery. Only those who are born already would vote for abortion.
Right, exactly. And, as we're watching here, I think about all the years of Mother Angelica founding this network, how pro-life she was. I remember one of the early days we came here, I remember she gave me this poster of a very tough-looking child who had been aborted and pulled apart, and she wanted that put on the air. She wanted people to see the truth of that. And as much as sometimes we don't like to look at that, and we have to be careful, we're not looking to shock, little kids. We always want EWTN to be a safe place for someone to be, but I think Mother was so impassioned when she saw that she just figured people needed to see this. And of course, we've been mentioning that there's a new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and other prayers that we're making available through our religious catalog, EWTNRC.com. It's the kind of thing that I think the kinds of people who support EWTN and are part of the pro-life movement would find great comfort in as they do. Have you picked out, maybe there's something, one of those prayers in there that you could read out loud while we watch those courageous marches in Washington, D.C.?
So there's a section on the Rosary, a section on the Stations of the Cross, which I've read, and now here's one, Mother Angelica's Conversation with God, which is the last section. And this is her thoughts on detachment. It has taken me so long to surrender to your love and providence, to release my tensions to your serenity, my fears to your omnipotence, and my lukewarmness to your love. I hold on to these weaknesses as though they were treasures. My soul cries out for freedom, and the very will that reaches for deliverance from tyranny keeps my soul a prisoner to myself. And you can think about women caught in that mentality. It's a call to trust in His providence at this time of crisis in our lives.
Especially at that point in time when it does seem to be that the world is crashing around you. And that's why it's so important that we, who are the members of the family and the support system for that woman in crisis, be there and realize that maybe we have to sacrifice and stretch a little bit and deal with the quote-unquote embarrassment maybe from the past, even though I don't think that's such an issue anymore. But to step up and put your hand on that person's shoulder and say, we're with you and we'll support you ongoing, whether it's the work of the family itself or people like Good Counsel or Her Choice in Birmingham, all of those. Now we take you once again out to the march with Teresa Tomeo. Teresa, who do you have?
Hey, Doug, we have Domingo from Chile who is here living in D.C. and doing his internship, and he's going to talk to us about why he's here today. I know the weather is probably a lot different than it is at home, but how are you enjoying the march so far?
It's been amazing. It's the first time I come to the march, and I'm really surprised by the courage of all these people to come and stand for what they believe on, despite of the weather. It's really amazing, especially the families. There are a lot of families with young kids around, and it has been really beautiful to see them.
As far as being a seminarian, what kind of an influence do you think this will have, God willing, eventually on your priesthood?
Well, I think Pope Francis invited us to be missionaries of mercy, and I think this kind of event is going to make me a priest pro-life, a priest that preaches, that really believes in life, defends it, and promote big families, big Christian families.
Do you think that this has had a big influence in terms of around the world, seeing this march here in the United States, which really was the first and is now the largest? What impact do you think that has internationally?
I think everybody see a statement that all Americans are doing. I'm not from the States, and many times we receive a lot of bad things from America, things that America produces, Hollywood and stuff, the culture of death. So seeing something so big, it just changes our mind, and we kind of realize that there is a huge spirit in the States that wants to really change this country for good.
Well, we're glad that you're studying to be a priest. If all goes well, when do you think you'll be ordained?
I'll be ordained, God willing, in 5 years.
All right. Well, my husband's a deacon, so I know the process of going through that and studying. So God bless you. We'll pray for you. And thanks for being here. And we're really proud to have you in the seminary. God bless you, Domingo. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks for walking with us.
Bye.
It's a seminarian student who is here in Washington. His name is Domingo. He's from Chile. And I wanted to ask him the question, Doug, about the march, because sometimes I think we forget, you know, we're so busy doing our jobs and bringing the march to people around the world, and we kind of forget that it influences so many. And this is why we do what we do. This is why we come out here every year, because it really is having an impact. And I hope Mother Angelica is watching, because she started it all. And think about her hope of helping just one person and how far this message is going out all over the world and making such a difference. Back to you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Teresa. And exactly, Mother Angelica's support for this mission, obviously ongoing, the whole life issue, El Divino Niño. And of course, we are seeing images from the 43rd Annual March for Life live from Washington, D.C. And listening to the interview with this seminarian there from Chile, Father, reminds me of the fact that we are covering this event as well, completely in Spanish, actually out of our studios on the West Coast, but they're covering the March for Life, and they will be also covering the LA, One Life LA, as well as the West Coast Walk for Life in Spanish. And so people should be aware that EWTN reaches globally, but reaches globally in multiple languages, and we have the largest Spanish language Catholic network in the world, internationally in South America and in Spain, and one specifically for the United States. So if you don't know about it, if you've got friends who maybe would be interested to learn more about the Spanish channel, they could check that out through their local cable operator and find out how it's available in their area. Also on the web, clearly you can get it. Go to EWTN.com and find out all about our Spanish website, our Spanish Facebook page. We have everything to offer for Spanish. We also have for German as well, but we have it for Spanish, and it has more impact on people here in the United States. So again, that was always Mother's goal, was to reach people where they're at in the language they speak.
And you know, her own initiative in raising the awareness of the pro-life issues has come back to her. Now she's been bedridden for a number of years, and the tender loving care that she receives, not only from her sisters, but from the local community too. There's some retired nurses that help with her care, love taking care of Mother. That charity always comes back to you. You know, when you're looking out for the life of someone else, you're wanting to stand up for the rights and dignity of another person, that ends up coming back to you, that your life is enriched, and you're going to find that charity will come back to you as well.
Right, exactly, and you find also that, and though you don't do it for that reason, many times because you've reached out and done that and had that impact, that means people are that much more willing to step up and lend you a helping hand as well. We had some images just moments ago as the march heads up Constitution Avenue. We saw a shot up closer to where the Supreme Court is, a high shot that showed the very beginning of the march. As you can see, there's some people out in front of it. A little vanguard there, there's the shot. And I believe that is a new location for us, which we hope will give you that much more picture quality and images of the march. We were hoping it would be one of the bigger ones like last year, but still great to see people out there, you know, braving the weather. And again, these are people not only braving it now, but are probably going to have to deal with it more after the fact than even right now. But as you can see, the 43rd Annual March for Life was not canceled. The city government in Washington's already closed itself down, but the March for Life is on its way. It will continue onto the steps of the Supreme Court building, where there will be some silent no more testimonials, which we hope we will be able to bring you as well.
And we also want to talk about the 9 Days for Life initiative of the U.S. bishops, which is a wonderful initiative. And it's a 9-day novena, in effect, from January 16th through the 24th, which is Sunday. So you can still join it if you weren't there at the beginning. You can still participate in the prayers, the different actions that are recommended. And they quote Pope Francis in their article about this, and they say, he said when he was in the United States, care for one another is care for Jesus himself. And so in caring for life at all of its stages is caring for Jesus himself.
Right, and that's why prayer is so important. We were talking about Mother's book. We can see we're over 20,000 on the abortion counter, well over 20,000 since our coverage began this morning. And as you can see, images from Washington, D.C., and just a reminder too, because since this is going through Sunday the 24th, to remind people that tomorrow we will be bringing you live exclusive coverage of One Life LA, as well as the Walk for Life West Coast, as we've done for several years. We'll have our team out there. Father Mark, Mary Christina will be there. Doug Barry from Life on a Rock, they'll be there along with Jim and Joy Pinto. They'll also be out there, so we'll be providing full coverage of that from San Francisco. A great lineup of speakers. I know in LA, Patricia Heaton is going to be speaking there, a well-known actress from the movie, not from Mother's Night Out, but really the more known from The Middle, the television show, as well as Everybody Loves Raymond, somebody who has stood up for the life issue all along, and in fact has a sister who's a religious sister in the Nashville Dominicans. So,
I didn't know that.
you know, and it's tough enough to stand up for any of us, let alone coming out of that Hollywood cabal and complex. There's other people as well who we know who are pro-lifers who stand up and say things, but certainly indicate how much pressure can be put on them when they do speak up for life.
Well, that doctor, the last speaker there at the stand, she was talking about these two women, and they both had unplanned pregnancies, and they made two different decisions, and she saw two different effects in their lives. So the one mother who had welcomed that child, that there was a happiness as she brought her child there to her for further care, the needed care that she had as a child, where the other one, she had broken up with her boyfriend, she had decided not to be a doctor. And there really are these devastating consequences when we make bad choices, but they're not unredeemable. That's the message of mercy.
Exactly.
Right?
Unfortunately, we also live in a world today where people think they have the right to make every choice, but they don't have to, but the idea that sometimes there's some bad outcome from that, their answer to that is, it's not my fault, and I'm not responsible. And it doesn't matter whether it's your fault or even if you're responsible, it doesn't change the facts. We live in an objective universe, not a relative one.
Right.
And unfortunately, many people think life is what they think it is rather than what it actually is. We're getting back out there to the middle of the march with Teresa Tomeo. As you can see, beautiful images as the crowd moves up Constitution Avenue. Teresa, you have another guest.
Hi, Doug. Yeah, we're in front of the march for a very specific reason, because after we interview these wonderful gentlemen from North Carolina, we are going to literally drop our equipment off and run up to the Supreme Court and then start coming to you live from there. So we have a different vantage point. I just wanted to explain that to our viewers. But you can see the march now coming up behind us on Constitution Avenue. And two wonderful gentlemen from North Carolina, Jack and Bill Hudson. And you just came on your own, huh?
Yes, normally we come up with our church, but the buses were canceled due to the snow. So we decided to rent a four-wheel drive and come on up.
Why go through the treacherous weather to be here? What does it mean to you? Obviously a lot.
The graces. The more cold it is, the icier it is. It just seems to infuse energy into the pro-life movement.
How important do you think it is for not just women to speak up, but for men to speak up on this issue?
Oh, this is a father's issue. This is a failure of fathers, and it's the responsibility of men to pick up the slack. Women have been carrying the banner for years. It's really a father's responsibility to clean up this mess.
So how long have you been coming here, Jack?
I think I'm Bill, my
Bill,
son
sorry.
Jack. That's okay. I think this is my 7th year, I think.
Wow. And you keep coming every year?
Oh, yeah. It's not too far away. We're just in North Carolina.
Well, thank you so much. And Jack, what's it mean for you to be here as a young man?
Well, it's very inspiring to come up and see all these people come out nowadays when everybody's backs are turned against it. So it's great seeing all the young people out here too, and it keeps you going.
Are you inspired by the numbers of young people in terms of how large the young representation is?
Oh, yes, ma'am. It seems to be growing every year too, which is fantastic.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for braving the weather. Well, we are going to leave you here, and then we're going to run up to the Supreme Court, and we'll talk to you in about 15 minutes, I hope. Back to you in the studio, Doug.
Thanks, Teresa. And as we got images of the march, we're going to finally get a chance to talk to Damon. Damon.
Yes, hi. Here we're right in the middle of the march. I know you got some good shots before. What's your name?
My name is Bernardo Gonzalez.
Bernardo, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Ohio, now I live in New York City.
And what brought you down here in the middle of Snowmageddon for the march?
Well, I mean, it's such an important, life. I was very blessed to go to a Catholic college where, pro-life was such a big part of that as well too. I'm one of 12 children in my family, so obviously I know how important it is, to be here and to have good families as well too. And a little snow is not going to stop us. 40 inches is nothing. So
that's great. But even the predictions, the forecast, none of that was going to deter you.
No, absolutely not. I got my little Subaru all-wheel drive, came down here. This is something that's important. I leave my schedule open every year because it's that important, and we're going to stop abortion in our lifetime.
So this is not your first march?
No, I've been here probably a handful of times throughout high school and college.
Good. And what are you seeing now this year? Anything that caught your interest or caught your eye from, either the people or just the whole atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the snow was a little hard. A lot of people had to turn around for safety, but we have people at home praying for us. And, I think with everything that's going on with, Planned Parenthood, the election coming up this year, and next year is going to be super, super important because those are obviously huge things, that are going on in our country right now that we need to come out and show what we support and show what we don't support.
And you came down here by yourself?
I did. I met up with some friends. Got a lot of friends in the D.C. area, but I drove down by myself.
God bless you for your witness. There you have it. People come down in groups, they come down individually, but they're here regardless of the weather, and we're in the middle of it. Middle of the march, in the middle of the storm. God's will be done. Thank you.
Thank you for your continuing march for life.
Thank you so much.
God bless you. The next
Thank you.
protest of Planned Parenthood is April 23rd.
Damon.
Yeah, I'm here with Sarah and Todd from the Life and Mercy Foundation. Tell us a little about your organization.
It's an organization that the main focus we have is to support mothers expectant no matter what the condition is.
And you guys are from Texas?
Yes, we live in Texas, in Houston.
I recognize that from your shivering, Todd.
Yeah, it's a little bit colder here than in Houston. This is our third March for Life. We missed last year, and I guess that's when the good weather was, so we bring the bad weather, apparently.
Well, I think it's every 7 years. This might be a 7-year thing. So tell me about your time with the march. How many of you have been here before? What is your experience?
Well, this is our third march, and it's been an awesome experience. The people are so enthusiastic, and we're defending the babies and their moms. Especially the moms who don't have any place to go. That's what our foundation does. Gives them a place to live if they don't have some place to go, so they're not forced into making a choice they don't want to make.
Let's tell me a little bit more about your organization, about what you're trying to do, and what things you've seen in your work in the Respect Life.
Well, this organization started because when I was 20, I was hired as a cleaner in a place, and the next day I found out it was an abortion facility. And I could hear all the lies they say to the women, so I started advising them not to do that, and I stayed there as long as I could. But I found out that if we tell the truth and if we bring support to women, they choose life. That's why since that day, 25 years ago, we've been providing them everything they need, and our goal is to build a home where they can spend their pregnancy and get some moral support and some love.
That's beautiful. So you're involved with that as well, with that witness and the building of the foundation?
Yeah, I met Sid 3.5 years ago, and we were actually in our church, Prince of Peace in Houston, and we were working in the pro-life movement together, and she told me of her story, and I decided I wanted to be part of it also.
That's great. One last thing. So when you're doing that work up front with the women and the work, you're doing that kind of work with the women up front. What does a march like this do to help your work? What does it mean to you to be here to march?
Is to be present, to say, I raise my voice for the voiceless, no matter the weather, no matter how we travel, no matter we're stuck in Washington until the airport is open again. It means to be part of this voice for the voiceless.
Well, I think you've absolutely done that. So, Sarah and Todd Houston, God bless you in your ministry. And we'll bring you some more folks from the midst of the sea of humanity and get some interviews with people who are part of this march. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you so much, Damon. As you heard there, as our coverage continues here, Father, you had people from Houston, a lot of people who've made the longer trek. And what's interesting, the couple of gentlemen from North Carolina who were not going to be deterred by the fact that the bus decided not to go, which was probably a good decision for the school or the parish not to risk it, but they themselves got themselves a four-wheel drive and headed up. And in one way, like he said, sometimes I guess the idea that when things are too easy, they don't seem like they're worth it. That somehow we have to overcome adversity, and it's in that overcoming that we actually feel that benefit of having gone the extra mile.
Yeah. You know, and I was thinking about David DeLeyden's interview with Jim and Joy, and he saw 2016 as like a watershed year where the course of the conversation is changing.
Right.
Because of these videos, because of these events like this, because of the truth getting out there more and more in people's hearts. People are looking at abortion differently, it seems to me, because of that.
Exactly. Let's get back out into the field. Well, we were going to go to Damon, but, you know, with a crowd like that, you know, and Father would know it better than I do, you deal with some wireless equipment and things like that. The number of people, the number of cell phones, even the banners being used can have an impact sometimes on the signal strength being broadcasting ability to get from one signal one place to another. I know we saw some banners there.
So we had the American Heritage Girls. I think there's a group actually in Birmingham.
Right.
And the Aquinas Academy, the Roman Catholic Diocese of Syracuse, and St. John the 23rd Seminary in Boston.
Yeah, just a couple of the banners we've seen here. Now I think we do have Damon. Damon.
Yes, I'm here with a group here who lost their group in the sense of canceled buses from Michigan, and they came down and drove on their own. What is your name?
I'm Natalie Partica.
Natalie and?
Tommy Ford.
Natalie, Tommy, and?
Hannah Partica.
And Hannah?
Terry.
Terry. They're telling a great story of how their group was coming down, was canceled because of the weather, and they drove down on their own. Now tell me about the group and this Crusaders for Life.
The Crusaders for Life of Detroit is a group copied off of the Crusaders for Life Chicago, and we look at the pro-life movement in a positive way by singing songs and doing cheers, and you know, promoting in the best way possible. We are trying to expand our group, and it's fun.
Great. And it's young people like yourself?
Teenagers to young adults. We have like we have teenagers running it and planning events, and we go out in front of abortion clinics and march for life normally, praying the rosary, singing songs.
That's beautiful. And Tommy, you must be a little bit disappointed the rest of your group isn't here, but it wasn't going to stop you, huh?
No, it was not. Definitely not. Yeah, it would have been fun, but it's still just as fun. It's exciting to be here, and I'm glad to march for life.
That's what we call committed, Doug. We call people here who says, regardless of what the weather says and the scare and that, they're going to come even when the group doesn't. What a great witness. God bless all the work that you do. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you, Damon. Again, wonderful testimonies of people who go above and beyond, and we salute all the people who are planning on going as well, who hopefully are praying for their safety and also hopefully taking in the events and participating as they can through the medium of television and the internet and our coverage of this as we've done every year. It's our commitment to the pro-life movement to cover this particular march, the march in Canada that's coming up in May 12th, I believe, as well as the events happening on the West Coast tomorrow, which we'll be covering as well, so you can stay with us. And also later today, we'll bring you a replay of the Mass that took place at the Verizon Center, that youth event with Cardinal Wuerl. That happened simultaneously while we were doing our interviews. We recorded it, and we will be airing that after our conclusion of the actual march itself. And as we can see, the snow is falling, but it is not deterring the ardor of these pro-lifers and the young people involved. And sometimes, again, I think young people like a challenge.
They do like a challenge. I liked a tweet that we just had, Margaret Garnett. Life is never convenient, but it is always sacred. You know, that there can be these inconveniences, and Pope Francis said something similar, you know, that being charitable is not always convenient, but it's something that helps us to grow as individuals.
Right, exactly. Again, this is EWTN's continuing live coverage of the 43rd Annual March for Life, live from Washington, D.C. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We'll also have highlights on YouTube later. You can get us in any different variation on the internet, live streaming. If you don't have cable, if you're at work listening, you know, you can check out a Roku box or something like a Apple TV we're on. You can see images posted on our Pinterest site. You can like us on Facebook. You can check out our radio feeds where Teresa Tomeo is so comfortable in the mornings on the Catholic Connection. If it's the first time you've seen Teresa, you enjoy listening to her, you can check her out on our morning show on EWTN's Global Catholic Radio Network via your local Catholic radio station or through iHeartRadio or through our website or on Sirius XM radio as well. And again, for all information you have about EWTN, EWTN.com. And don't forget, also, we want to mention, Mother Angelica started something called the Religious Catalog for Holy Reminders. And the idea of that was to get good Catholic images, good Catholic books and materials into people's homes, because it's important that we're surrounded by those reminders of the eternal aspect of our lives. I mean, people sometimes forget EWTN has to do with the eternal word. Who is the eternal word but Jesus Christ?
It's a spiritual growth network. That's why we're here. And charity helps us to grow in the spiritual life. How can we love God if we do not love our brother? St. John writes in his first letter. And so this march is all about loving our brothers who are voiceless, who do not have a voice for themselves, and speaking up for them.
And again, we see the beautiful image as the march continues up Constitution towards down there. You can see those trucks. Actually, that's the triangle where one of our technical locations is. As you can see, it's snaking up past there. That's past, I think it's 3rd Avenue or 3rd Street Northwest. And then we'll continue moving towards the camera. We see Lutherans for Life right there as it moves up Constitution Avenue and then makes the right-hand turn in front of the Supreme Court building, which is 1st Street Southeast, just to give you a general idea of the march and how it progresses. And again, as you can see, it is getting wetter thanks to the ongoing snow. It abated for a little while, but it seems like it's picking up again. You can see in the distance some of the, looks like it's sticking. Of course, there had been some snow yesterday morning, which had already had an impact on the DC area and led to a lot of people making a decision that it was not a good idea to come. And as we mentioned, the city of Washington's offices actually closed this afternoon around noon or 1 o'clock. And again, this is EWTN's live coverage, our committed coverage to the pro-life movement, 43rd Annual March for Life, live from Washington, D.C. And as you see the crowd, we go to Damon, who's in the middle of it. Damon.
I plucked these two young people out of a pretty large group and asked them where they were from, and they managed to get 4 buses in from Kansas.
Yeah, we're from Wichita, Kansas. It took 28 hours to get here. It was a rough ride, but who knows how long we're going to be here with this snow. But it's a great time. It's a great witness to be here, and I'm glad we're here.
Now tell us your name.
My name's Connor.
Connor, and where are you from?
Wichita.
No, the school?
Bishop Carroll High School.
Bishop Carroll. Your name?
Bryn Solotop.
Bryn. Now, how many people came down, you said?
Our high school alone has 4 buses, and from our diocese, we have at least 10.
And what were you getting as messages on the bus on the way down on the 28 hours?
Oh, without showering for a whole 28 hours, people tend to get pretty grumpy. But in the end, it's all worth it to be here. And, we got in at 1 o'clock that night, and we had Mass. And not everyone was in the greatest mood getting off the bus, but now everyone's happy, everyone's excited and cheering. It's a great time to be out here.
So here's the question. Why? Why? Why did you come here?
Because if I'm not here, why would you be here? Why did you come here? And people think that their voice, if people that think that their voice is too small, then there would be nobody here. If everyone here thought their voice didn't matter, there would be no march. Every single individual voice is what makes up this unity as a whole. If you thought that one person's gonna come here and bang on the door of Washington, they're not gonna listen. But if you bring 2, you bring 3, you bring your whole church that might listen. And then you bring a community of churches and a community of organizations across the whole nation. Not only is Washington going to listen, the whole nation is going to listen on EWTN.
Wow, how about that for fire? How's that for fire? Bree, what about you? What about you?
We almost didn't march today, and I came last year, and it was such an experience. I mean, there's so many people out here that are so dedicated to what this faith brings us to, and I had my mom just recently had a baby, and he is my godson now, and through that experience I just learned so much about just pregnancy and how important it is to show our faith through kids. I have 6 siblings, and we are one great happy family, and it's just beautiful. I love babies, and it's definitely like what Connor said. It takes 1, 2, 3 people, and you can make a difference.
I got to tell you, your witness getting here is a witness alone, but your words today, your passion, what a great, great story. Doug, how could you not feel the passion, not just in numbers, of course, but when you hear testimonies like this of the travel and of why they're here and how articulate they are? I don't know, I'm extremely hopeful for this pro-life generation. Yeah. So, hello.
Hi.
Where are you all from?
We're from New Orleans.
New Orleans.
And Atlanta.
Atlanta.
New Orleans.
And New Orleans. Okay, now what brought you all here? What brought you here?
We came here to march for the protection of all life because all lives matter. So.
And what is your name?
My name's Elizabeth Gobert.
And your name?
Brenda Stoll.
Now, Brenda, what brought you from Atlanta and with this group here, knowing what we were going to come with the weather, knowing everything this, and I keep bringing this up to people because it's the issue of the day, but what's your story?
Well, I've been involved in pro-life for 26 years now, and I've just seen so much damage it's done to women. I have friends that have had abortions who are hurting so much. I think about all the lives that were lost that we could have, and I'm a nurse, and abortion is not health care. Abortion hurts women, it kills children, and I would just love to see it end. When I first started in the pro-life movement 26 years ago, I would have never thought that in 2016 it would still be illegal. I'm still in shock over that.
Wow, well, come here. What is your name?
I'm Gwen Bergeron.
And Gwen, are you from New Orleans, or?
Yes, I am.
Tell me what brought you here? What have you seen at the march so far? What are some of your eyewitness views?
Well, I've seen so many people so fired up for life. You know, they all believe in the dignity of human life and just wanting to be a voice for the unborn who have no voice. So, yes, that's why I'm here, excited.
Have you seen anything even so far that's really just moved your heart or really just inspired you and said, I'm glad I was here?
Yes, I've seen women come forward to say that they regret their abortion and that they, now they're being that voice because they've hurt for so many years and they want to stand out for that. And that has just touched my heart very much.
That's beautiful. What do you think you'll bring back from this march back to Atlanta?
Energy to keep going and to get fired up. And I also found out how I can try and talk to my congressman better and get a relationship with him going to maybe change his mind.
Well, safe travels back, and God bless you for being here. May it cover you and all of your travels back home. There you have it, coming from around the country. God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you so much, and it's exciting to hear all those. One of the things struck me when Damon was talking to those young people. I think they were from Kansas, and he asked me a question. Well, why did you come here? And he basically said, well, why did you come here? He said, and I thought it was made a really solid, simple point, which is if we weren't here marching, you wouldn't be here covering it because there'd be nothing to cover.
And if every individual had said, well, I can't make a difference, then there'd be no march to cover.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's such a simple way of thinking about it, but it's exactly right on the mark. And that's why it's so important that all the individuals, everyone who's important to God, which is everybody, has the ability as a created being of our Lord to step forward and step up. And I think we can see, is that maybe the Pilgrim Virgin, I think, being carried, Our Lady of Fatima, of course. And this is a very special year. This is the anniversary year of the Angel of Portugal coming in 1916, and next year, 2017, will be the 100th anniversary of the apparitions of Fatima. And so you should look for that, as well as coverage on EWTN as we continue our coverage here from Washington, and we go back to Damon Owens.
And we got a group here that's come up again from the South, this time from Mississippi.
Yes.
Yes, and what's your name?
Megan.
Megan?
Chris.
Kim.
Susie.
Ronaldo. Ronaldo. All right, you guys are here from Mississippi. What do you see?
Oh, a lot of snow and a lot of people.
Is this what you expected? How many of you, anybody a first time march? Yes, what have you seen?
I've seen God's love and mercy. Just everyone being here today shows forgiveness and love for God. We're all called to have mercy for each other, and mercy not only for the unborn, but for those who have committed the act against love. And so I pray for all of them and all their families and anyone who has encouraged others who have encouraged others for abortion. But I pray for them just as much as I pray for the unborn, because God can change their hearts and show mercy.
Yeah, and I'm not going to put you too much on the spot here, but knowing what was coming up here, knowing in terms of the weather, knowing the travel, however long it took you from Mississippi, something drove you here. Want to share that?
I was adopted, and I was born in 1962. If my mom didn't love me enough to give me up, and abortion was the choice, I may not be here today with all these beautiful young people and all these people. So I thank God every day for my life, and I thank God for my mom for giving me life and not having that option to abort me. So life is precious, and each and every one of us are precious.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. A father of 2 adopted children. That's a testimony I prayed my children would have as well, thanking their birth mom and for that beautiful decision. Are you guys with a parish, with a group? What's your association with each other?
We're from Immaculate Conception Church from Laurel, Mississippi.
Good, good. And was there a larger group, or you guys came together and decided to come?
It's just us. We have a diocese group that comes, and then we're young adults, and we just decided to come on our own this year.
Courage, perseverance.
For 4 days, we're staying in a condo across the street. Don't worry, people, we're going to be great. We're going to stick it out through the blizzard.
I think you're going to make it. So you guys have the Lord's anointing there. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, and God bless you all for being here, and thank you for your witness and your testimony. Back to you, Doug.
Thank you so much, Damon, and thank you to those people from Mississippi for making that trek. And we go to Teresa, who's in the midst of that snowstorm. Teresa.
Okay, we are live here, made it up to the Supreme Court. It's snowing very heavily, and there is probably a larger contingency than normal of pro-aborts who are really trying to drown out the Women and Men of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. We're literally right in front of the steps of the Supreme Court. Every year at the end of the march, when the marchers come by the Supreme Court, they stop and they listen to these powerful testimonies. Some of the testimonies you heard this morning and before the rally have been with us all day. Janet Miranda, the co-founder of Silent No More, joins me again this afternoon to kind of set the scene for us, what it's been like for them. And then we're going to hear from 2 women whose testimonies are so powerful. Janet, describe our scene for us. It's really snowing heavily. The marchers are just starting to walk by.
Well, when we first got up here, some of us came ahead of the march because the pro-abortion people were here and threatening, that last year they tried to destroy our stage and sign, so we came to protect our property, that we rented. And then we kind of took position here just praying silently, for them, because they were screaming all kinds of nasty things, of course, the same old rhetoric, my body, my choice, and all that. And then once we saw some of the pro-lifers here, we just started talking to, and we took over and we started the gathering. And that's what's going on now. We've gotten up here, and the women are here and men, and they're sharing their testimonies, and we're going to stay and keep sharing until the police tell us we have to leave,
I'm wondering if it's a larger crowd this year, not that big, it's maybe about 60, 70 people from the pro-abortion side, but it's larger than normal.
Yes, it is.
And I'm wondering if it's because they do feel threatened.
I think they do. I think the baby body parts videos this summer exposing what's really going on and how nasty the industry is has gotten them furious. And also the fact that Congress actually passed a bill to defund them, even though Obama vetoed it, showed that the will of the people really nationwide is to stop having abortion, to fund Planned Parenthood, and let's stop it once and for all. So I think they feel more threatened than ever.
Now, I know the ladies that are with you, but just give our audience a brief introduction. We have Mary Kaminsky, and then we have another wonderful lady with you.
That's right. This is Mary Kaminsky, and Mary and I have been doing Rachel's Vineyard together. She's been actually part of the campaign since 2004, and she can tell your listeners, the viewers in a few minutes, her abortion story. But she also is a campus minister up at Montclair Montclair State University, which she's been doing. But we also were on a team in New York of Rachel's Vineyard for several years together, too. And she's my good friend,
And
too.
Mary has also shared her story on the Catholic View for Women. And Mary, your story is very significant because right now, the way you're working with the young people, when you see a lot of these young people out here with their pro-abortion signs, what goes through your mind?
Well, first of all, I'm very interested in education, and I think there's a lack of it on
the side of life. A lot of these students do not really realize what is involved, when someone has an abortion, but also that life does begin at conception. We know that scientifically. And my job, working on the college is really to let women and girls and men know, okay, all the facts. I mean, they're being lied to through Planned Parenthood. And we're here really to tell them the facts. This is the truth. Abortion hurts women, children, men, and families.
What's it like for you to be here each year at the steps of the Supreme Court and hear the testimonies?
It's heart-wrenching when you hear many testimonies. The men, a lot of young girls up here today giving testimony, and it just reminds you of all the things you were never told. And when you look back on your life, like someone like myself, I had no idea at 17 years old what I was going to go through, even trying to have a child. So, and there are many women here today that are not able to have children at all, and that really is a shame. So there's a lot of things that we're just learning.
I think one of the things that's so frustrating is that these women are sharing their stories. And I wonder if anyone here even listens. You want to give them a chance to hear what you have to say, right? And you are, introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Andrea Pearson.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And did you tell your story yet? You're telling your story?
I have not told my story yet. I've been here. This is probably my 6th or 7th March with Silent No More. And my daughter's usually with me, and she's sick today, so.
What's it like for you to be here?
It's heart-wrenching when I see the opposition, because I feel sad for them. Like Mary said, they really don't know the truth. And standing out in the crowd also, when I walk out there, there's so many women and men that come up to you and will just whisper to you that they themselves had an abortion and how they're in pain as well.
In terms of having these public testimonies like this at such a significant location where it actually happened 43 years ago, it makes a very, very powerful witness. And even though we may not hear stories right away, as you said, people are listening. People are hearing, hopefully, what's going on.
Yeah, and my daughter and I do a lot of work with the youth as well. And we speak to them, and they actually are very interested, and they are very engaging, and they want to know. They're hungry for the truth. I'm not talking about the ones that are hiding, but these young kids are really hungry for the truth. And the more we speak about it, the more they're going to learn and understand, and then they can educate their peers as well.
It goes back to the education, right, Mary?
Right, exactly. Education is key, and we have the truth on our side. So that's why we have no fear, and we're happy to be silent no more.
So, Janet, how many women and men are giving their testimony today?
Well, we have about 40 here, and of course we have some all the way out in San Francisco for tomorrow at the Walk for Life, and of course some canceled, as you know, buses didn't get here, but they're all determined to stay here till each one gets to give their story.
And you'll be bringing some more over to us so we can talk
I
to
am.
them. Thanks,
Actually,
Janet.
I'm going to bring someone who came all the way from California, so I'm going to bring a few people who came here, and then they're going to hopefully get out and fly out and give their testimonies tomorrow too.
Okay, if they can get out, we'll see. But thank you, Janet. Appreciate it. Janet Moore, the co-founder of the Janet Miranda, the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. We're at the steps of the Supreme Court. The testimonies are continuing, and as Janet said, they have about 40 people to go through. And we'll stay here and we'll talk to as many people as you like. You can see the weather is getting very bad. The marchers are starting to come by, and so the march is just beginning to wrap up. We're estimating it's about a third of the normal crowd that was here today due to the weather. We'll come back to the Supreme Court whenever you like to hear from us. And again, we're glad that we could be here to hear some of these testimonies and to give further voice to the women and men who are silent no more. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Teresa. It was great to see Janet and the wonderful work she does with Silent No More. The wonderful images coming from Washington, as I said, about a third. And I still think it's amazing that that many people were able to get there for the March for Life. And I wonder, Father, when they were talking about some of the quote-unquote pro-aborts who were up there shouting and screaming up by the Supreme Court, that it's a combination of the fact that they didn't think that many people would be here this year, and they thought maybe they would have a better balance in numbers, but still they came out, still they showed up. And I think the other point is even more prescient and on target, which is the fact that they're feeling that much more threatened in the sense of they can see the tide turning in the ways people's opinions are of how life is being handled today.
I know a lot of people, those that are part of the march who saw them, pray for them. And I guess we can ask our viewers, we are asking our viewers to pray for them too. that God will give them that light, that grace that they need in this year of mercy, that he would pour his mercy upon them too, so that they might experience it as well.
Right, exactly, and I think that's the thing we always have to remind ourselves is that we say there, but for the grace of God go I.
Yes.
I might have been lucky because of the family that I was raised in, or the parents I happened to have, or the faith experience, or the spouse I married, or some other situation that opened me up to the Lord. And I was able to accept that free gift that's out there for everyone, and others have not because of their own personal situations. Many times it can even be ones of invincible ignorance or not being aware that God's love is out there for them because they've been so hurt. And we do have to pray for them to be open, because we know from dealing with EWTN over the years that there is no one, and I'm assuming from what you hear in the confessional, you know, the idea of there's no one who's too far away to come back and be forgiven.
And there was an email during Jim and Joy's program with David DeLayden from a woman who said she's been very staunchly pro-choice, pro-abortion, until she saw those videos and she realized what the underlying motive was, and that just changed her whole perspective on it.
Right, exactly. Let's go back out to Teresa, who's standing in front of the Supreme Court building with the Silent No More people. Teresa.
I'm pregnant out loud to my sister.
Okay, we're back here at the Supreme Court, and this is where the Silent No More Awareness Campaign testimonies are taking place, and we found some very brave young people. Doug, if you could believe it, they drove up all the way from Miami. Seriously? God bless you. That is amazing. What's your name, sweetheart?
Sonia.
Sonia, and tell us a little bit about your trip and why you decided to make this trip knowing the weather was going to be like this. It must mean a lot to you to be here.
Yeah, it does. Well, we made this trip because we believe that everyone should have an opportunity at life. So when you abort someone, they will never experience happiness or all the troubles of life. And I think that's very important that they do.
It's a long drive for you. How many hours did it take you?
Well, we flew.
Oh, you did fly. Oh, okay. I thought you drove up. Okay, good. But you're going to be here for a while. You know that because of the snow.
Yeah.
All right. In terms of activities at your school, how did you first hear about the pro-life message?
We heard by a lot of awareness groups coming to us. So I think it's very important to spread awareness because we wouldn't have learned if not.
Well, we're counting on you guys to carry the torch for us. You will do that, right?
Yes, we will.
Okay. And your name is, sweetheart?
Tiffany.
Tiffany, and what's it been like for you so far? Is this your first march?
Yes, and my first time in Washington as well, yes. It's been powerful, honestly, very powerful to see how there still is hope in the world and how people still stand up for life, you know, not just abortion, but all type of life, euthanasia and everything. And it is very powerful. It still gives me hope, you know, as the youth. So it's very, very nice.
Are you involved in a pro-life group back at your high school?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm in Raiders for Life because we're St. Thomas Aquinas Raiders, so it's Raiders for Life. Yeah.
How did you first hear about the pro-life message? Was it handed down to you from your family and then obviously reinforced at the school level and at the parish?
Yes, yes it was. I heard about it, well, I always grew up in like the Catholic faith, and I heard about it more specifically in 8th grade. We had a day called Chastity Day, and they talked about pro-life. So.
And let's talk to this young man, if you could squeeze in here. Dear, your name is?
Hi, I'm Justin.
Hi, Justin, and why are you here today? Tell us your story.
Well, my campus ministry teacher, Miss Ecker, shout out to Miss Ecker, she can't be here right now. She's taking care of a couple sick friends back at the hotel. She was telling us about it, and I don't exactly know, I just felt something that I needed to come. I can't explain it, but I felt that I needed to come. And I don't know, I took the feeling and ran with it, and I'm here.
And are you glad you did that?
Yeah, I'm very happy I did that.
What has it meant to you so far to see the number of young people that are here year after year?
Well, it's really powerful, and my sister, she lost her baby when it was still in her stomach, and she was thinking about abortion but decided she wanted to have it, and then the kind of mess that came after it, and she says that losing it was a serious toll on her psyche.
So the miscarriage was really hard for her, and she at one point was thinking about aborting?
Yeah, and then I have friends and stuff that, or not friends, but friends of friends that have done it, and they're just really emotional about it.
So you've seen the fallout from it then?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your witness and for your articulation on this issue. And your name, dear, is?
Jamie.
And you're here?
I'm here because I want to show that life means something, even from conception, because 18 days after a baby is conceived, it has a heartbeat. And people think, oh, it doesn't matter, it's just in someone's stomach. But we need to get the message across to everyone, young and old, that life matters.
I just have to say I'm so impressed. When I was in high school, I had no idea. Roe v. Wade had just been passed. I was in high school in the 70s. And you are so articulate, you're so bright, and you give us so much hope. So God bless you. Thank you for your witness, and thank you for braving the cold from Miami. And if you can call down there and have send up some sunshine so we can get home sooner, what do you think? Yeah, thanks you guys. God bless you. We're going to keep on talking to folks here. Come on over. The man with the prize for the best hat at the March for Life. Okay. And your name is, sir?
Jay Watts.
And Jay, where are you from?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, and you are?
I'm Peyton Watts.
And tell us why you're here, and love the hat. It's a good look for you.
And it is the warmest hat I've ever owned. I actually was here in town speaking to an organization. I travel around the country training people how to defend the view that human life has value in the marketplace for an organization called Life Training Institute. Scott Klusendorf, I work with him.
Great organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with Scott. I'm the vice president of the organization. And this gave an opportunity for me to bring my family with me for the first time. And it was important to me that they experienced the march and to be here and to see just how important it was to so many people and to be a part of the bigger part of it. You know, they're a part of it from my perspective, but they don't get to be a part of it from everybody else's. And so I wanted them to just see what it was like, what the pro-life movement was like, and what it was like to be a part of the march.
And for you, in what you do in terms of training, this must really mean something to you to be right in front of the Supreme Court.
It is. You know, when I first got over, especially when you know so many people couldn't make it because of the weather, when you got over to the rally and saw how many people did come out, it was very moving. And then to get over here and have a chance to pray with my son. So much of what we do is arguing that scientifically speaking, from the moment of conception, they're human. And that philosophically speaking, what makes us valuable as human beings is our identity as human beings, the fact that we're human. And so I argue a lot of philosophy and science, but to be here and to pray and to walk and to do all of those other aspects of that are who I am, not just my job, but who I am as a man, it was very important to me and very moving day.
Have you noticed that there's more men now giving their testimony here? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's great to see it all. You know, for my daughters, it was great to see, because my young daughters are back at the hotel. They left before we got to this point. But they got to see all the women and to see how many younger women, a little older than them, are a part of it. For me, to see fathers out here, to see men leading this, to be a part of it. It's great because so much pressure. So many times I talk to people around the country, and they tell me I feel pressure to get out of it because I'm a man. So often that attack that I shouldn't be involved with it because I'm a man. I should have an opinion because of my sex. And to see them overcome that pressure and to be out here leading it, to be involved with it, all of those things, yeah, it is exciting.
And how has it been for you, young man? What's your impression so far?
Abortion isn't a good thing. I know that very well by now, but I'm happy to see so many people have realized that and that they're being open about it. They're showing that they disagree with the practice of abortion.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for the great work that you do. You do a wonderful job of training people. And I think for you, it must be interesting to be here. It's kind of a culmination because, as you said, working in the scientific area, and then you come here and you hear these testimonies. And so it's an affirmation for you.
Absolutely. And to be a part of the bigger movement. I mean, we always say we're a part of, we try to govern the argument, so to speak, to help people to make good arguments and to engage well. But we're a part of a bigger movement, a bigger thing. And to be here and to see people that I know and organizations that I work with, the Catholic organizations all over the country, to see so many people I've worked with, it is very exciting just as a human being to be a part of it.
Give us your website.
It is prolifetraining.com, www.prolifetraining.com.
Thank you. God bless you. And safe travels home. Thanks for all your great work. Shall we continue? We're going to have some more testimonies back with Janet Miranda, the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, and more women.
These are two women who traveled the furthest to come here. This is Angelina Steenstra. She's our national coordinator up in Canada. Of course, our Canadian friends on EWTN will see her in May when they have March of Life there. And this is Patty Smith, our regional coordinator in San Diego. I mean, these two ladies traveled the furthest. You might want to ask them why they came to Washington for the snow event here.
It's and probably in Canada you're used to the winter weather, right? Because you're close to us in Michigan. But we've talked before, Angela. You do a beautiful job. What's it mean for you again to be involved in this particular aspect of the march at the end of the march with the testimonies?
It means a lot to me to be part of the international movement of Silent No More Awareness Campaign. And personally, when I come to Washington, I commemorate the short life and death of my child, Sarah Elizabeth, who died in Buffalo, New York, as a result of a surgical abortion when I was 15, having conceived in rape.
And so this whole concept of exception for rape and incest, and I think the word is getting out though with groups like Save the One and others who are making a difference.
Yes, and I think at some level women are exploited to justify abortion in the cases of rape and incest. So you have double victims. You know, not only are you a victim of rape and incest, you become a victim of abortion and lose your child, which is a further victimization.
Now, you've given your testimony here at the Supreme Court, right? What was that like?
The very first time I did it, it was a real, very moving experience to commemorate Sarah's life and death, to do something, you know, that cost me something to commemorate her. And it was very liberating on another level, and it also convicted me that I could be silent no more in Canada, that I needed to respond to the invitation to lead Silent No More awareness campaign in Canada.
We're so great to have you here. It's so great to have you and to work with you in Canada. You do a wonderful job, and I know your March for Life is growing up there as well. Thank you, and we'll see you a bit later. And Patty, thanks for joining us from California. How has it been for you so far?
This has been absolutely marvelous. I love the weather. I've missed the snow. I used to live in Seattle, and coming from San Diego, this has just been beautiful. And being able to meet so many people with Silent No More that I normally just talk to on conference calls or through emails and on Facebook, just get to see them in person and really be able to build a camaraderie with these women and men. It's just been miraculous.
So is this the first time you've taken part in this actual event from the Supreme Court?
Yes. I normally go to San Francisco or the San Diego March for Life, but I wanted to experience the one here in Washington, D.C., and see all my East Coast sisters and brothers from Thailand.
If there was one or two things you could tell our viewers, maybe someone who hasn't heard all that many testimonies and is still maybe a little bit on the fence on the abortion issue, what would you tell them?
Well, what I would say is that regardless what you think, abortion does hurt the women, and it hurts everybody involved. And they just don't realize it. They might not realize it at the very beginning, but they will eventually. I didn't realize it for 30 years till after my abortion. I had 2 abortions. And I suffered for over 30 years with alcoholism, promiscuity, you name it, I went through it. I ended up in a mental hospital because I was suicidal.
Most people don't realize that it spirals, and some women don't even really stop and think about it until years after. I know in doing so many interviews with Janet and Father Frank that there are women who have abortions and maybe 10 years later they finally realize maybe my life is spinning out of control because of the abortion. But why is there such a disconnect, do you think, at least for some women, for a few years?
Because a lot of times when women go in and if they seem to be having problems with, and they go to therapy or whatever, abortion's not brought up. They don't ask you, have you ever had an abortion?
The denial is everywhere, yeah.
Everywhere. And so even when I was going to my psychiatrist, he never asked me if I had an abortion. Nobody does. You know, and they don't understand that that's where a lot of it comes from. It just rips the soul out of us. When we lose our babies, it just takes our soul away. You know?
It was interesting. I was just interviewing a high school student, and he made a very profound statement. He had a sister who suffered a miscarriage. During the pregnancy, she was thinking about an abortion. She didn't abort. She lost the child through miscarriage, and she was so very devastated over the miscarriage, and then thinking in her mind, how much worse would I have felt had I had the abortion?
Absolutely. And that's one thing I have a real hard time understanding. They keep saying, the pro-choice people keep saying, it's not a baby. But yet when you miscarry, you lose a baby. Well, when you abort, you lose a baby. The terminology is the same regardless.
Truth is truth, right?
Truth is truth.
Thank you for your strength and your courage and for being silent no more.
And by the way, Teresa, the pro-abort opposition has left. They left a half hour ago because they don't have the determination we do, right? I mean, because you know why? We have the victory because we're bringing the light into the darkness, the light of Christ. And I want to remind people, go to silentnomore.com, read the testimonies, listen to their voices, and pass the message on, and go to abortionforgiveness.com, put in your zip code, find the nearest healing resource, especially in this year of mercy. The doors of the church are open.
But you never know. Maybe someone who heard one of the testimonies or was listening or saw some of the signs, and then you've had women, you told us this morning, that had been standing as the march was going by, and they would see the Silent No More women, and yeah.
And then they went for healing. because they were ashamed to tell anybody that they had that abortion. They were keeping that secret deep inside of them. They might have went to confession, yes. They knew Jesus forgave them, but they couldn't forgive themselves. And that's the important step. When they go to a healing program like Rachel's Vineyard, then finally they can begin to heal their own soul, forgive themselves. You know, Jesus' mercy and grace is always there, but they beat themselves up for many, many years, even if they have gone back to the church and gone to confession, because they still are doing the blame game. Right. An abortion recovery program like Rachel's Vineyard helps them really be at peace. They get to name their child and really deal with that abortion and put it to rest.
Janet, we'll be here for a little while. We're going to talk to some more students. Thank you, ladies. Okay, we're going to keep going and talk to some more folks. Come on over here, young people. How are you? Good. My name's Teresa. Where are you from?
North Carolina. Cashiers, North Carolina.
And your name is?
Becky Holly.
And Becky, give us a little example of why you're here. Tell us your mission to be here in the lovely weather that we're having here in Washington, D.C.
Well, my group started out about 3 years ago when God kind of laid it on my heart to come out and march for life and stand up for these aborted babies. And it started out with 2 of us, and there's 18 of us here today.
What's it been like for the group so far?
Amazing. It's amazing to be a part of this, and we are really sad that 1/3 of our generation has been aborted.
Does it give you hope, though, to see all of the young people?
All of the young people in the blizzard, amen. Yeah. Such hope.
So have you had a chance to talk to some other of the young people, the groups? When did you get here?
We came in on Tuesday, and we've been doing street ministry and getting ready for this event today.
Great. And you're going to come back next year?
Absolutely, every year.
Let's talk to some of your other friends here. And your name is, sweetie?
Adrienne McCall.
Nice to meet you. And tell us what your experience has been like. And why did you decide to stop here at the Silent No More campaign?
Well, my trip so far has been really amazing. I got to see how many people actually really do care about these babies who aren't even being able to have a birthday, or not even for the moms who decided to abort their babies, and to see how their story, how it hurt them so much that they regretted it. It makes a different point of view for me, to where, like, I feel sorry for the moms who decide to give away their babies, and it's really sad. And I really wish that this march will make a difference in Washington so that we won't have to march again.
Thank you so much for your courage and for coming all the way up here. Stay warm, stay healthy, and keep doing what you're doing. We need you. You need to carry the torch for us. Thanks. God bless you guys. Safe travels back home. Pro-life, pro-woman. We're going to throw it back to the studio. We'll get you some more interviews, and we'll talk to you soon, Doug. Great people here, a lot of young people. Back to you.
And it was killing me from the inside.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much. And, you know, just as we was coming back, I heard somebody saying it was killing me from the inside. So, you know, as much as we've got the powerful testimonies and the upbeat of seeing young people, we have to remember, you know, the whole Silent No More, people suffering with abortion. I'm Doug Keck here with our chaplain from EWTN, Father Joseph Mary Wolf. We've been here since the beginning. Last night we had the event, the Mass before the March, and then we had the Vigil Mass, obviously, and then this morning, right before the March, we had the other Mass, and we'll also have the Verizon Center Mass coming up after our coverage. In the next few minutes, we'll be able to show you a replay of that Mass from earlier this morning from the Verizon Center, which was the Youth Center, as we continue our coverage here of the 43rd Annual March for Life coming to from Washington. As you can see moments ago, heavy snow now is hitting, and so obviously we're seeing the beginning of the storm, Snowmageddon, as Damon Owens has referred to it as. That must be what they're calling it locally there in D.C. Father, we saw a couple of banners and a couple of people there. We saw Franciscan University, I think, was there walking. We're seeing sights here, as we can see on our screen, from the Supreme Court building.
We had Generation Pro-Life, Missouri Right to Life, Jesuit New Orleans Pro-Life, the Knights of Columbus, Live for Life, the Family Research Council, Holy Apostles Seminary and College, and Franciscan University.
Right. We always think it's good to get a shout out to the banners that we can see, to honor those who've made the march. And again, you can see the images coming from the Supreme Court building. And what's great is this year, thanks to our crack team, these are the best images we've been able to put out for the Supreme Court building. We've been able to bring you some of the Silent No More and Teresa Tomeo doing interviews there. And we want to remind you before we go out to Teresa that there's a couple of events happening tomorrow. Obviously, the Walk for Life from the West Coast and also One Life LA. There's also a Requiem Mass for the Unborn, a pro-life Mass coming from Los Angeles at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, so people can look for that as well. It looks like at this point in time we're wrapping things up with the weather outside of the Supreme Court building. You can see those images. That's the end of the crowd. The march has really ended. And again, tomorrow, the two of us will be back together again here in studio looking for our coverage of the Walk for Life West Coast. And that will be from San Francisco, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. That's for the Walk for Life West Coast with Father Mark and the Pintos and Doug Barry. And also we'll be bringing you coverage as well from One Life LA, and that's at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And again, as I mentioned, the Requiem for the Unborn Pro-Life Mass with Archbishop Gomez from Los Angeles at 8 p.m. Eastern. The first time we're really doing that, 5 p.m. Pacific. Look forward to that as well. So we have a complete West Coast feed tomorrow on the pro-life angle. I'm assuming that it'll be a little bit warmer than we're seeing right now, and we really owe a lot to those people who've, have really braved the elements, is no other way to say it, and taken those risks. But at the same time, we salute all of you who are watching EWTN's coverage, who've stayed with us this whole time to support these people, even though you feel bad that you might not have yourself been able to make that journey as you had planned maybe all year. A couple of things just before we go, a couple of housekeeping things. It's Year of Mercy, the Jubilee. When you talk about abortion, it's all about mercy. Holy Year in Rome by our own Joan Lewis. No one knows Rome better. The Complete Pilgrim's Guide for the Jubilee of Mercy. Look for that. It's available right now through the EWTN Religious Catalog. And of course, as we've mentioned before, Praying with Mother Angelica. This book is coming out in February, but you can pre-order it now through EWTN's Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com, EWTNRC.com. Meditations on the Rosary, Way of the Cross, and other prayers, which a couple that Father has referenced already during the day. And so as we get ready to close, Father, a couple of closing thoughts and maybe a prayer.
Yes, I hope that we could have that image up maybe one more time, of that sculpture of Martin Hudasek, the Slovakian artist, which really he was trying to depict forgiveness, the mercy of God toward those that have experienced the pain of abortion. There's many people, many women who have experienced this terrible pain. And yet the Lord's mercy is waiting for them. His arms of mercy are there to welcome them. And that's really the theme of Mother's prayer here that we're going to be concluding this coverage with, this prayer that Mother has for mothers considering abortion. Lord God, we ask you something that only you can give. You know this woman's great pain, uncertainty, shame, humiliation, and fear. And I ask that you touch her, Lord, and let the child within her grow, come to light, and one day see you face to face. Take away her fears, take away everything that makes her uncertain. And Lord, I ask you to heal the relationship between family members who have so much tension at this point and confusion. Lord, we put this wonderful family in your hands and ask you to heal them, that they may present a child one day to the world. And we ask Mary, our Mother, to pray with them and bless them. Amen.
Amen. And that's just another example of praying with Mother Angelica. Yes. And Mother said it so well. A couple of things to just remind ourselves of, that we will see you tomorrow, of course. Father, it's always great to be with you. And I want to thank, our wonderful team in Washington, Damon Owens, Teresa Tomio, John Kliklinski and his whole team, our team here, Mark Kaspersky, Steve Beaumont, our whole crew here, Roger and Philip. And
John.
And even John.
That's right.
Without them working together, it's like people going to the march. If they're not there doing their job, we're not covering the march. And if these people aren't doing it, we're not bringing you the march. And without your support, we couldn't do it either, because it's your donations that keep EWTN afloat. Just a reminder, stay with us as our coverage continues. Coming up next is the Youth Rally Mass for Life, taped earlier this morning at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. Cardinal Wuerl will be the main celebrant, and Father Chris Seath will be the homilist. So stay with that, and stay with all our coverage. Look for air times and replays, and join us tomorrow at 2:30 for the Walk for Life West Coast and One Life LA coverage beginning 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. For Doug Keck and Father Joseph Mary Wolf, thank you so much for joining us.